finding solace or peace is not the absence of lots of things happening in your life, or the absence of fear, or the absence of the unknown. Peace is not that, but it's to live in a world where it's changing all the time and you're not quite sure what will happen, and still being calm in your heart. So finding a means to be calm, however you may do that, and it's wrapped in culture, it's wrapped in who you are, it's wrapped in the way you can reflect.
And spirituality to some extent.
Spirituality. In fact, Sir Kim often finds his peace through spirituality, a connection. So it's not the absence of all those things that are happening in your life, but it's to be in the midst of all of those things swirling around you and still find a presence and a calmness in your heart.
This podcast is proudly supported by the Ōtara Network Action Committee, ONAC, community-owned, community-driven and community-led.
Kia ora, hoki mai anō ki We Are Ōtara, Ōtara's own voice, unedited, unfettered. It's straight from our hearts and onto your screen. Thank you so much for joining us. Wanted to give a bit of a shout out today for ONAC, the Ōtara Network, who are the supporters of this podcast and enable us to bring it to you every week. The We Are Ōtara podcast is community-owned, community-driven. It's ours the whole way. So please support it. We really appreciate all of you guys that come on it and be our guests. If you ever fancied being a guest, give Will a tingle. He'll be there. So today's guest is our very own Superintendent Scott Gemmell. Scott has been someone who's been an amazing supporter of the kaupapa of not just the We Are Ōtara podcast, but also the work that we're doing here to make Ōtara the great town we know it is and help us get there. I thought the day I sat down with Scott, we were going to talk about his new job and what he was doing and what his priorities might be in like a kind of flat, blah, blah sort of conversation. But actually what came out of it, and I haven't seen what it looks like edited, but what came out was, who is Scott Gemmell? What's Scott Gemmell, the husband, Scott Gemmell, the dad, Scott Gemmell, the member of our community who was here for Aotearoa 100%. And I'm really honoured to have been part of that conversation. And big shout out to Scott. He's the guy that our cops can be, and we're so lucky. Kia ora mai. Kia ora no, Scott. How wonderful to have you back. Now you're in your new role. Yes. And, as we said when we met last time, it must have been at your Poroporoaki, I think. Love to have you back and hear about the new role. So thank you so much for being back at We Ōtara. Hoki mai anō.
Tēnā koe, o tira tēnā tātou katoa. Thank you.
So where do we start? I think a really nice place to start would be just for you to give us a bit of a conversation about, your former Counties Manukau East role and then this transition into a regional role, which is really exciting for us. We feel like you're a boy from the hood that's made good.
Thank you. That's nice. That's cool. That was actually one of the most melancholic moments was to leave, I think. I thoroughly enjoyed and still am connected here intrinsically and catching up with Rich just outside as well. It's really cool.
When he heard you were coming, he wasn't going to miss out.
Oh, that's very nice. So
he's going to be great.
I didn't want it to be a farewell when I was in East, just based up the road here, because although people move, the friendships and the relationships you build, they don't just stick to one location. Never want that to be. I've always found the word partnership a real sterile and concrete word that didn't really reflect what we should be about, really. We should build friendships. We should build relationships that endure regardless of where you happen to go. And so that probably formed the foundation of the melancholy from leaving. There's excitement for the new role. It's based at Piki ki te Ao, which is just down the road here in Otahu. And I remember the time we opened it with Ngāti Whātua and Tainui Waka blessing the building, and it was such a cool event. And I've still got photos from that time.
Wow.
That I had them framed and held them in abeyance at Ormiston, waiting for a time when it'll be suitable to hang them up. And it's probably come to that time now.
Yeah, in your new whare.
And my new whare, yeah, that's right. So, yeah, exciting, and relationships endure.
So can you tell us about when I popped back, having gone downstairs to get my jacket, because it's much more professional. I heard you just going over with Vinny, who we've got on in the producer's seat, the director's seat today. Some of the core elements. So it's a regional role as opposed to just a sub-regional role. Do we get to know what your title is?
Yeah.
Something fancy, is it?
It's not that fancy, but it is Director Tāmaki Makaurau Partnerships.
Woohoo.
So the rank is Superintendent, which is reflected in these epaulets now, so the star and the crown. And
so that's you finished with the lines? Is that what happens? I don't really understand.
Before I had, the rank system, before I had 3 stars, and that was for an inspector level. Yeah. So as the area commander at Counties Manukau East, there was 3 stars. The next rank up in the police system is superintendent, which is reflected by these. The stripe system that you mentioned is sergeant level.
Okay.
So three stripes or 3 chevrons represents a sergeant. The next level up is a crown on its own, and that's the senior sergeant rank. And then you have the 3 stars, and then you've got this.
Okay.
And as you get further up, I get a little bit lost, but
we'll get there though, won't we? It'll be this time next year.
Well, no, we're here at the moment. The regional role. So this role for Tāmaki Makaurau Partnerships covers from Kaiwaka in the north down to Te Puaha Waikato or Port Waikato through to Kaiaua in the south.
Wow.
There's quite a large population in there, obviously, and large land area as well. So with our rank structure in Tāmaki, there's a person that sits at the top, and that's the Assistant Commissioner, Sam Hoyle. Yeah. Then there's 5 that sit at my level, that sit reporting to him. I'm one of those.
Okay, that's very... So that Assistant Commissioner role is in Auckland?
Yes, so he's Assistant Commissioner for Tāmaki Makaurau. Okay. Same area, same population grouping. And then he has 5 of us. So there's a district commander. You would have met Jill Rogers before. So she... There's a district commander for Counties Manukau. There's a district commander for Auckland Central, and a district commander for Waitemata area north. So that's 1, 2, 3. We've got a deployment superintendent, and then we've got partnerships superintendent. But as I was mentioning to Vinny, it's a brand new role, the one that I've got to shape up as we see fit collectively. But principally Māori, Pacific, ethnic communities, the ministries, so Justice, Corrections, Oranga Tamariki, Kāinga Ora, MB, Ministry of Urban Housing. There's quite a group in there. There's also council. There's also civil defence emergency. Also NGOs, local boards, and part of the process and where I'm sitting here is to figure out which relationships should sit at a regional level, which sit with the Assistant Commissioner Sam, which ones sit with me, which ones sit with areas like Counties Manukau East, for instance, because some people want to know a local flavour, like what's happening in Ōtara, how can we work in Ōtara, what are those things that are affecting people in our whānau here. There would be a local flavour that would go to an area commander because
that was what
they have
Sally
the deployment.
and Richard, for example, just discussing what's happening with the local gangs.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So, and then I'm rekindling relationships that I have from before I joined police to those that have occurred since being in the police, and it's been really cool catching up with people again. So, yeah.
So what was before you were police? I thought you were a career policeman. Well, you are now, I guess.
Oh, I am now, yeah. I studied at university in Auckland. I'm a shoe repairer by trade. My family, well, in 2 years' time, in 2025, our little shop will be 100 years old.
It's not Dominion Road.
It's on Simon Street now, but for 75 years it was on K Road, and it was on a 1-month lease for 75 years with my great-grandfather, William Gemmell, and he's established the business. Then grandfather, then father, mum. Mum. All of I'm one of 5, so we've all worked there at some point, and I've got 2 brothers there now.
Want to earn some money, son?
And swept floors, did all of those things, and learnt how to be cobblers effectively.
Wow. So
it's
is there a cobbling degree?
No, it's definitely not a profession. It's a trade.
So what did you study at university?
I went to university and did law, actually. I studied law, and in between I would just walk backwards and forwards from Simon Street at that particular time, and until I completed my degree. It was
at
actually...
U of A?
Sorry?
At U of A. University of Auckland.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
I called my heels there for quite some time too.
I was halfway through, and you may recall, in your second year you would do 40 hours of community work. I chose to do mine with Māngere Police Station. We grew up in Onehunga, so, and that was really the seed of me wanting to join police as a profession moving forward. But I wanted to finish my degree. I actually did a master's in Māori jurisprudence, and then I came back into police. And 20 years later, here I am. Yeah.
It's probably not. It's not the subject of this conversation, but you know, my academic career at University of Auckland was my degrees in Māori studies and my arts degree, and then I did postgrad criminology in law school, and it's just quite fascinating, isn't it?
Well, Kylie Quince, who's Dean of Law here in Manukau, was one of my lecturers when I went through. So, yeah. Well, so when you talk about the old relationships, you're just catching up with people.
You are. Well, Bernard Brown, do you remember Bernard Brown?
Yeah.
Well, he would tell you I was his favourite people ever. That's what he told me the other night. We bought his house, which was pretty special to me.
Yeah.
So when he and Gaynor moved on and said, well, it's too much for us, which is kind of where Tony is 20 years later. But he was a wonderful lecturer, and it was a long time before you were there, but it was in the days of Greg Newbold, who is
know the name Greg.
He's an active criminologist, but he'd just done the big Huey at Perry when I met him. He was on work release at law school.
Wow.
It's really scary. He would tell people it was a self-report study.
Nice.
Anyway, they were great days. So wonderful days, really. In law school, you look around and there are so many people that are in different positions, but still upholding a lot of, wonderful kaupapa, really.
Yeah, that's right. I totally agree.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening in my new role, actually.
So, new role, reconnecting.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. So after cobbling in university, what happened then? Or that was the Māngere Police Station had sort of drawn you into its arms?
40 hours there, and I thought, yes, that's definitely where I'd like to go.
Wow.
and I was involved in all sorts of things over that particular week. Road patrol with students at a primary school. I worked on a Christmas assault. It was just around the Christmas time that I did my 40 hours. So there was a Christmas party at a work that ended up in an assault. So I worked on corroborating evidence collection for that. Then I was involved in preparing a search warrant for drugs that were being sold from a house in Māngere at the time then too. And that drug search warrant was executed on the last day. We did some patrolling in Māngere Ōtara area, and it was working with the frontline staff, as we'd know now, with the school police, as we'd know them now as well, and with the detectives over the serious assault that was occurred at the Christmas party, together with the drug search warrant, was a bit of a short week where there was a cross-section of work that interested me. And
sounds like it was almost orchestrated to attract your interest.
Perhaps, or maybe that was just a tohu, the way that things happen sometimes. That's how I've stuck with it. I've really enjoyed the people I've met along the way, and continue to moving forward too.
So moving from then, so we know that your sort of recent role before you came to this part of the world was with armed offenders. Are you still doing armed offenders?
No.
They let you give that away? Or?
In August last year, there were 3 big pieces of work. So there was my role here in Counties Manukau East. There was the Armed Offenders Command that I was, and there was 16 years I think I was involved in that. And I've been involved in what's program of work called Understanding Policing Delivery, which is around fairness and equity of access for all. It's built into trust and confidence in police by our people, by our nation, by our community. I work alongside Mark Evans, who leads the work for the executive, so based in Wellington, but the thinkers that have been long time justice reform advocates, people like Sir Kim Workman, who at 84 came to my pōhiri yesterday.
Oh, wonderful.
Flew up from Wellington. I've become I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with him. I think the world of him and what he's achieved and what he's working towards. And given his age now, he could retire. He could quite happily live in Greytown, but he is so impassioned to see fairness and equity for all of our communities and see better results for people who are brought into a criminal justice pipeline where we are one of those. We're often the front gate. He's working still and advocating for reform that's going to be better for all of us. So to have an opportunity to sit alongside him, and I'm what you call the operational advisory voice, and I chair an operational advisory group that are like Rich, sergeants and constables and detective sergeants from across the country. And Sir Kim has an independent panel of which Kylie Quince is a member. Professor Paul Spoonley is a member. You've got Professor Collins is on his group. Rajna Patel is one of the new members onto the group. He has a group of community members, academics that sit with him. And I have an advisory group that consists of operational, constabulary, sergeant people from single-person stations to the metropolis of Tāmaki here.
It just gives you the whole texture.
We bounce ideas.
Wow.
The first time we met, there was the academics on one side and us on this side, and there was a river that was right through the middle, and I thought the two would never erode to become one, but we've eroded the edges and we've become a really collective team that have a shared purpose, a shared intent.
Do you have, so you've got the constabulary and then you've got academics. Is there a community sitting in there somewhere?
That's all of your group that sit with Circum.
Okay.
Vessel Collins is in that group. So although we say academics, there's Rahui Papa in there who's, there's Glenn Wilcox in there, there's Anne Wapu, people that
great history in Māori leadership.
Yes, yeah. Diversity in here, there's just, and we try to match it with the diversity in our operational group for shared stories and differences of opinion on the system that we are all a part of, where there are inequities or there is unfairness. So it's a really complex thing, but the best way to describe it is to personalise it. And the way I personalise it for our staff is to say, think about the experiences in the work groups that you've been in, the situations that you've attended, and ask yourself the question that, would you have taken a particular pathway that you know would have been better for a victim, for a witness, for an offender, for their family, but you were prohibited from being able to take that path because of what legislation or practice or policy or training or guideline has directed that you should. And we, even in some legislation and in our policies that follow, we have words like must, we must do this. Yet I know from our collective group, there's 3, there's 4, some have put through multiple stories, and it doesn't seem to matter which work group you are in, where they know that they would have loved to have taken this opportunity to take this path. It would have worked for this victim, it would have worked for this person, but we couldn't do it because of this. And that's the difference around fairness and equity, is looking at the system, the guidelines, the processes that we are trained to deliver upon that prohibit you from taking maybe a more holistic approach to something that may work, trying something that may be out of the box, but you haven't felt the ability to take that path just at this point.
It's interesting you say that, because when we met in this room with Anson,
yes,
from your Country's Manukau East team, so that was something that Anson really shared with us that stuck with me, was that his vision about, actually I've come to another culture. I'm a Kiwi, I've got Kiwi kids, but I look Chinese and I have my Chinese ancestry, and I bring the ability to put on 2 hats. And it's the willingness, the knowledge that there are 2 hats, and that's where equity springs from, isn't it? There might be 10 hats actually. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's, I guess, what your group's about.
That's right. There's a whole lot of intersectionality that happens where one of the areas that Understanding Policing Delivery is looking at is disability and access to police. Or we don't currently have the data that supports whether it's been a good interaction or whether it's been a negative interaction, because we didn't have this ability. Deaf, any of the disabilities and access to police service. So Donald Beasley Institute focus in this area, and they're one of our research groups. So we've got independent panel with Sir Kim, an operational advisory group with myself, and you've got 4 different research teams. Donald Beasley is here, Ihi Research, which is John and Kath Leonard with their team, and you've got Mana Pounamu, it's Pounamu and Rachel here, and sitting in the back is a person by the name of Paul Brown, who's a statistician, and he's pulling data for and supporting each of those groups in order to dive into the data we do have, extrapolate it out and see, Donald Beasley, this is for you, Ihi, this is for you, and all of this is foregrounded by fairness, equity, trust and confidence in the police. Globally, every police jurisdiction's really struggling with trust and confidence and social cohesion and even acceptance of police practice, which comes back to legitimacy in having a police service or police organisation or police force. And when we look at overseas jurisdictions, there's like the Met, for instance, they just had Baroness Casey review into their trust and confidence and their culture, and there's a whole lot of recommendations that have come out of that. And when we look at what we're doing exactly the same thing. We're trying to build our trust and confidence. Many jurisdictions globally have come to a point where they don't even survey for trust and confidence because it's fallen.
Yeah.
And
so
the social fabric, it's so low that they're starting from a different starting point. We still do this. And I think despite everything that's happening and happens, we are, as NZ, New Zealand Police, we're very fortunate, I think, to enjoy a trust and confidence level that is where it's at. You know, there's so many that are struggling with this. So to
but
build
there's people at the helm, and I think that's the point too, that know it must be different. And that's why we will find our way back.
Yeah, absolutely.
To full trust and confidence.
Yeah.
I feel a shift already in here at Ōtara. It's really feels quite desperate some days. But with people like you and so I feel that new energy from your team that's coming in, and there's cool. It's exciting. It is exciting, awesome. and it's way different from back in 1981 when I had the opportunity to face off with a few of your former colleagues. But it is different.
Cool.
That's
good. That's really good.
We have to step forward, and when the son of a cobbler comes forward and is our regional policing advisor on engagement and connection, and I mean, how lucky are we? So, and you brought that piece of work, gave you a running start, really, or a rolling start into your new role, I guess, too, didn't it?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So you've kept that role.
Yes, I've.
You'll still lead the.
I still keep that, but it was the reason why I let AOS go.
Yeah.
And we've got 5 children, and I need to make sure that home and family is where as much of my time as I possibly can has to go there, of course. And then there's a time when I can give so much for work, but having 3 big portfolios meant that one had to go, and the one that could go at that time is AOS. Hence, that's what's happened. Yeah.
Well, I guess so. After a long period of time, it is. Yeah. Not just that it should go, but it could go.
It could go. Yeah, it can go.
Yeah.
So
and
that's
emotionally, I imagine that kind of activity takes so much of your bandwidth.
It does, and it's often at short notice. So it could be something.
Hey, honey, I know it's 2:00, but sorry.
You don't even go there. You just get up and out of bed and you move. There's no waking up and you just try and be quiet. You don't explain, just go, and then you leave and send a text at an appropriate hour, about 6:00 in the morning as opposed to 2:00. Yeah. And then,
gosh, that must be really rough.
So it is,
family,
or when you've got children that you have at a, might be an after-school thing here, and you're their only means of transport and getting them home or getting them there. There's been occasions towards the time that I was needing to leave. I gave 6 months' notice at the beginning of last year, where I was pulling children from their practices because I had to go.
Yeah.
And that had happened, fortunately, only a couple of times, but it did happen once when 2 of ours were swimming. And so at the end of the lane, I'd say, listen, I'm really sorry, but we've got to go. So you bundle them up into a towel and put them into a car, drop them off at Auntie's down the road here, literally just down the road here, and then I'd carry on. So when I say there's a stack load I'm grateful for, it's Auntie, it's Nan, it's koro, it's Mum, Dad. Yeah. It's this family that we have, lucky. We're so fortunate to have that we could just, sorry, I've got to go. And then some of those things could be pretty heavy, pretty draining. And when you come home, I learnt this as well. One of the most poignant moments of fatherhood, I suppose, was coming from one of those situations, coming home, and our youngest at the time came running up to me with eyes wide as saucers, with a piece of paper and a pen, saying that you need to sign this. And it was the most important thing in her life right then and there, that it also needed to be the most important thing in my life right then and there as well, regardless of what I just come from. And I signed it, and I read the pānui that had come from Kura, and it was for a school trip that was happening in a week and a half's time. So the timing, it wasn't, but in her world right then, it had to be signed right then and there as soon as Dad got home. So I learned really quickly that you need to be able to park things. You need to be able to find ways that life will just be like a wave. You'll crest sometimes, you'll be in a trough sometimes, but remember the centre of your universe exists right here at home. And if it's the most important thing of hers right then and there, it is the most important thing in your life right at that particular time.
And you've got 5 of those going on. Yeah. Not to mention your spouse.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I lead my life. You're way smarter than me, Scott, I can tell you. No. I
didn't used to start work again at night until the kids were asleep. But now they're grown up, so it's easy. But it is easy to become especially when you love your job, it's so easy to become all involved in it.
You can. And it's not, work will be there. I found another poor trap to get into is to worry about finishing all your emails at the end of the day. They're going to be there the next morning. In fact, there'll be another 20 before you wake up anyway. So don't worry about it too much. I do have a 24-hour policy. I'll get back in 24 hours. But that's that. Yeah. Keep learning, keep being curious.
Yeah.
That's it, really.
Keep being humble.
Yeah.
Scott, I hate for this to finish because it's so wonderful to be sitting here with you. It really, really is.
Thank you.
Something I've thought about a lot since your Poroporoaki, actually, which was you talked, I'm sure it was that, it might have been another meeting, you talked about peace.
Oh, yes.
And how do you find peace? And I thought that would be a really lovely way to finish today, to just share that vision that you had around where peace sits, because it's something that we all seek. And for you, in your position with the kaupapa that you're serving, many people would never find that sense of peace. So it's a wonderful, I guess it becomes, it's like a tohu for the rest of us from such an unlikely source.
Basically, kind of what we've been talking about with the waves, but finding solace or peace is not the absence of lots of things happening in your life, or the absence of fear, or the absence of the unknown. Peace is not that, but it's to live in a world where it's changing all the time and you're not quite sure what will happen, and still being calm in your heart. So finding a means to be calm, however you may do that, and it's wrapped in culture, it's wrapped in who you are, it's wrapped in the way you can reflect.
And spirituality to some extent.
In fact, Sir Kim often finds his peace through spirituality. a connection. So it's not the absence of all those things that are happening in your life, but it's to be in the midst of all of those things swirling around you and still find a presence and a calmness in your heart.
Which gives you that platform to step forward from. I think that's the point too, isn't it?
Yes.
That to be calm and in the stillness, find the next step or know where the next step is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Notice the things around you. I think I mentioned last time I go for a run along the walkways here because it's closer to
there was something wrong with that curtain.
No, because it's close to the river and it's close to trees, and just notice the things that nature has. So if you can notice that, then I think you're okay.
Yeah.
Take appreciation for the natural beauty that surrounds you. But thank you for your time too.
Thank you. It was an honour to be able to sit with you, and we hope that, even though we're small and local, that we will be able to come to you and receive guidance and from your team. Your team they're just great. They're so well focused and it's been really fun to have them with us.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And by all means, love to come back too.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take you up on that.
Ngā mihi
Kia ora.
Kia ora.